If you're anything like me, then you absolutely love the feeling of drawing in Procreate. It's simple, it's intuitive, and it just lets you create. But then have you ever wanted to just scale up your drawing and then it turns into a pixelated disaster? Or what about the struggle of just trying to make curved text and don't even think about putting it perfectly around a circle? Or what about just making a simple gradient that doesn't require a workaround? It's that moment of frustration when your tools hit a wall, but your creativity is still going. You can't do the thing you want because you don't have the tools. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how Affinity Photo 2 can handle those exact features that you've been searching for. Like literally, these are the exact things that you guys told me you wanted out of Procreate, and let me tell you, they're available for free in Affinity Photo 2. So we're going to see how you can finally get the exact look you want out of your art without having to leave your iPad and not having to shell out a bunch of money. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the big one. It's a feature that countless Procreate users have on their wish list, myself included, and that is true native vector tools. So here's the deal in Procreate. You can spend hours in Procreate crafting an illustration, trying to make a clean design for yourself. Maybe it's for a t-shirt, a sticker, a printable. It looks amazing on your iPad until you need to resize it or use it in a different way, and then you hit a snag. Suddenly, those crisp, clean lines turn into a blurry, pixelated mess. That's because Procreate is a raster-based program, which means your artwork is made from a fixed grid of pixels. Unless you start with a massive canvas from the beginning, you're locked in, and scaling up always means losing quality. And this is where Affinity Photo 2 becomes a total game changer. Inside Affinity, you're not stuck with just one way of working. You can combine pixel-based painting and vector elements in the same document. That means you can draw, paint, and texture exactly like you're used to, but also create shapes, paths, and text that stay perfectly crisp no matter how much you resize them. I can grab the pen tool and draw mathematically perfect lines and curves. This image I'm creating isn't made of pixels, it's made of points and paths. That means I can scale it up 10, 100, or even 1,000 times its original size, and it stays perfectly crisp and clean, and absolutely zero quality loss. And this is something I didn't even know was achievable on the iPad until I accidentally found Affinity Photo 2. It's something that took me a long time to even know existed. And I know a lot of people have been confused on whether or not this is free. Right now, it is free. I'm not going to say that at some point Canva's going to change their mind and add a subscription cost to it. But if you already have a Canva subscription, it's going to be free. And right now you can license it for free. So go ahead and do it. Do it right now. So now let's talk about something that seems really simple and kind of maybe even silly, but when you try to do it in Procreate, it turns into a massive headache. And that is just getting text to follow a curve. So don't tell me you have never tried to curve text. You've got a cool circular badge or a wavy banner, and you want your text to flow with it. In Procreate, you're stuck either placing each letter by hand, trying to rotate and size them one by one, or messing with the warp tool and just hoping it looks right. It's clunky and it's not quick, and the result is just not what you're wanting. Now compare that to how you can do this in Affinity Photo 2. It's almost unfair how easy this is. First, I'll just draw a path. It can be a perfect circle with the shape tool or a custom wave I draw with the pen tool. Once the path is there, I just select the artistic text tool. As I hover over the line, the cursor changes, so I click and I just start typing. Instantly, the text perfectly follows the path, but it gets even better. See these little handles? I can move these handles and adjust the start and end points and just how the wave or curve looks, and it changes with total precision. And all of this is live and completely editable. I can change the font, tweak the size, or adjust the spacing, and the text just redraws itself perfectly. This feature alone is a huge game changer and opens the door to so many different designs and projects. Whether you're making logos or like social media graphics, or you just want to make some fun t-shirts for your family, something that needs a stylish typographical touch to an illustration. Affinity's text on a path tool is what you've been missing from Procreate. The next big one that I know a lot of you have been wishing for with Procreate, and that is freedom from layer limits and just more options for non-destructive editing. First, let's go ahead and talk about the layers. If you've been using Procreate for a while, you know you have a limit on how many layers you can use in a canvas. I've gotten that warning that I've reached my maximum layers far too many times. Your layer count is directly tied to your canvas size and your iPad's RAM. So Procreate has a whole list of how many layers are available according to the iPad that you are using. So if you're using a huge high resolution file for something like a poster, you might find yourself hitting that layer cap much sooner than you'd like, forcing you to merge things down. And once you merge those layers, that's it. You can't go back and edit individual parts. Affinity Photo 2, including the iPad version, has unlimited layers. I mean, basically unlimited. Technically, Affinity Photo will not export any layers after the 7,999th one, but in comparison to Procreate, that feels pretty much unlimited. You can go absolutely feral and build a massive, complex composition with hundreds of layers, keeping every element organized and separate for maximum flexibility. But performance will slow down. You also have to expect some performance is going to slow down. It's going to take a while to load all of this, and it just depends on how new or how much RAM your iPad has. But the app itself is not going to stop you or give you a cap on how many layers that you use in a project like Procreate does. In Procreate, once you hit that cap, you're done. But that's only half of it. The real power comes from Affinity's non-destructive workflow. In Procreate, if you apply an adjustment like brightness or a blur, that change is permanently baked into the pixels. If you want to change it later, you have to just keep hitting the undo button, or you're just out of luck because you've done too much and you can't hit undo anymore. In Affinity Photo 2, you can use adjustment layers and live filters. For example, if I want to boost the colors in my image, I can add a vibrance adjustment layer on top. There's a slider I can play with, but my original image underneath is completely untouched. I can come back later, it doesn't matter how long, and I can open the file and that adjustment is still alive and it can be tweaked or deleted. And the same goes for filters like Gaussian blur or sharpen. In Affinity, they are live filters, which act just like adjustment layers. You can apply a blur and use a mask to choose where that effect shows up, and then change the blur amount anytime. This non-destructive approach is now the professional standard so that you're not stuck with what you've made. You can make adjustments at any time, change your mind anytime, and your original art is untouched and in perfect condition. So I have a couple more that I'm going to talk about, but what about you? What are the walls in Procreate that you're hitting? Are you currently being held back by not having a feature in Procreate right now? Drop it in the comments below. I would love to hear what your experiences are. So the next feature that Affinity has that Procreate doesn't is really subtle, but once you realize this is something that you can do, you kind of can't live without it. I'm talking about having artwork and elements that still exist even when they go beyond the borders of your working canvas. In Procreate, your canvas has a hard edge. You cannot go beyond the bounding box in Procreate. It's something that you can do in Procreate Dreams, and a lot of people have been begging to add this feature to Procreate as well, but it just hasn't happened yet. This exists in Affinity Photo 2 now. In Procreate, if you move a layer or an object partially off screen, the part that goes over the edge is gone for good. It's clipped. It's super frustrating if you accidentally nudge something or if you're trying to build a repeating pattern. In Affinity Photo 2, it's still there, fully intact, waiting on the pasteboard. I can bring it back whenever I want and nothing's destroyed. Why does this matter so much to some of us? Well, for starters, it's incredible for experimenting with composition. You can slide elements in and out of frame without worrying about losing them, but its real strength is for things like print designs and patterns. You can let your artwork bleed off the edge of the canvas, which is a pro trick for making sure there's no white borders after trimming. For anyone creating seamless patterns, this is a huge help. It's just a more flexible, forgiving way that respects your art and the hard work that you put into making it. So next, let's talk about something super simple, and that's just gradients. This is one of those areas that Procreate technically gets the job done, but Affinity actually has a gradient tool. Simple as that. In Procreate, creating a gradient usually means one of three things. You're either manually blending colors with a soft brush, or you're using the Gaussian blur tool and committing to it immediately, or you're grabbing a pre-made gradient brush and hoping it behaves. And to be fair, Procreate's gradients look great. What you're able to achieve in a gradient of color looks really pretty. But the problem is, once that gradient is down, it's baked in. If you decide later that the colors need a shift, or the transition needs to be smoother, or the angle is wrong, you're undoing, repainting, or starting over. There's no easy way just to tweak the gradient after the fact. In Affinity, gradients are fully editable objects. I can create a gradient fill and then at any point come back and adjust the colors, move the gradient handles, change the angle, soften the transition, or completely swap the color stops. In Procreate, gradients are more freehand, which is great artistically, but it's harder to keep consistent across a full project. The way I think about it is like this. Procreate gradients feel like painting, and Affinity gradients feel like designing. Neither is really better, but each are solving a different problem. Procreate is amazing if you want something expressive and loose and like hand painted. Affinity shines when you want control, flexibility, and the ability to change your mind later. When I first started using Procreate, learning that Procreate didn't have a gradient tool was the first time its limitations really started to show. Suddenly, I wasn't just drawing anymore. It turned into drawing time and problem solving time. If you're an experienced Procreate user and you're starting to feel limited, or you're new to Procreate and you're like, why doesn't it have all these really simple tools that everybody else has? Well, this is where Affinity really starts to make a lot of sense. So let's zoom out for a second. We've seen how Affinity Photo 2 gives you real scalable vectors, how easy it is just to curve text, how unlimited layers and non-destructive editing gives you so much more freedom, and how nice it is just to move an illustration to the side of your artboard and not worrying about it getting cut off. These are the things that have made me so happy with Affinity Photo 2 so far. But that's not to say I still don't love Procreate. I still love Procreate. Procreate is still incredible. Its brush engine is just unmatched. I don't believe I can recreate my experience with Procreate's Brush Studio in Affinity. This is not about replacing Procreate. This is just about upgrading your workflow and having more tools in your belt. Think of Affinity Photo 2 not as a replacement, but a powerful partner that picks up where Procreate naturally leaves off. It handles the technical, precision stuff that Procreate just wasn't designed for. Procreate is still going to stay the go-to for expressive and beautiful illustrating and painting for your iPad. Used together, you get the best of both worlds. You're not going to be fighting with your tools. You're just going to be able to make the thing that you want. But if this is you looking for an alternative to Procreate because you don't want to pay for an app just to make something, Affinity Photo 2 is so great. So go ahead and download Affinity Photo 2 for your iPad, and then go ahead and watch this video where I help you get started on how to use it to create digital illustrations. I break down all the tools you need to learn, and it's really easy and it's really fun.